He fell with the tail of his B-17, no parachute, leg shattered, blood in his eyes. The sky spun, the ground rushed up, and he braced for death. But then, the trees caught him. What happened next will shock even those who think they've seen it all. But let's start from the beginning. The sky had turned the color of burnt steel, dull, heavy, smeared with a sunless glow that made everything look like memory. Somewhere below them was the North Sea, but from this altitude, it could have been another layer of sky, just darker. The wind screamed along the fuselage of Fool's Errand, a B-17G that had limped through 16 combat missions and still smelled like oil and cordite. In the tail section, Staff Sergeant Michael Mick Harland adjusted his headset and wiped the frost from his tiny portside window. He was only 21, but the lines in his face were older. The cold didn't bother him as much now. Fear did. He gripped the handles of his twin .50 caliber Brownings with fingers that felt more bone than flesh. His job wasn't to shoot first. His job was to see them before they saw the crew. Lately, that had started to feel like trying to spot ghosts in a graveyard. The others were silent over the intercom, which was unusual. Normally, Carson would be humming something off-key from a swing record, and Jesse Knox Turner, Mick's best friend, his brother in all but blood, would be telling another filthy joke to lighten the load. But today, even the sky felt nervous. Their pilot, Lieutenant Avery, was all nerves in uniform. At just 24, the stress had streaked his brown hair with silver, and he kept blinking too often, like he was trying to see a future that wouldn't come. The crew had gotten used to joking about Mission 30, the number everyone wanted to hit before they could go home. But the truth was, every time they crossed the channel, it felt like one more turn of a revolver chamber in the world's cruelest game of Russian roulette. Mick had stopped counting after Mission 9. 50 miles to the IP, crackled the voice of their navigator through the intercom. Guns tight, eyes tighter. Mick adjusted his harness. The formation outside was flawless. Too flawless. Bombers stretched wingtip to wingtip like angels made of iron and fuel, gliding silently above a world that wanted them dead. Something about that silence was wrong. It wasn't peace. It was hesitation. Then, the sky split. The first flak burst erupted 20 yards off the port wing, and it felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to the ribs of the ship. Mick slammed into the side of his compartment as shrapnel shredded the outer skin of the tail. More bursts followed, 5, then 10, then too many to count. The clouds vomited black death, every explosion drawing nearer. Smoke snaked into the cabin. Mick could taste it, sulfur and fear. The intercom fizzled into static, then screamed. A human voice, but unrecognizable. Something exploded forward. The entire plane bucked violently, then settled into a wounded glide. "Knox!" Mick choked into the mic. "Jesse, talk to me!" No answer. He swung his turret around just in time to see another Fortress, tail number he didn't recognize, lose its wing in a single clean explosion. The bomber rolled and fell sideways, spinning like a stone across water, engines still screaming. Then silence again, the kind that wasn't quiet, the kind that screamed through the bones. The formation was gone, disintegrated. Fool's Errand flew alone now, and Mick knew, without anyone needing to say it, they had been left. The tail creaked like it was breathing, like it knew what was coming and feared it more than Mick did. He couldn't hear anything at first, just the deep, endless ringing in his ears, a hollow cathedral of pain. It was hard to tell if the vibrations were from the engines or his own pulse hammering inside his skull. The air stank of oil, burned paint, and something worse, something metallic and final. Mick unclipped his harness and began crawling forward through the narrow aluminum spine that led to the waist compartment. His boots slipped on blood, not pools of it, but a fine mist sprayed across the floor. Every inch forward felt heavier, like he was dragging the weight of the entire bomber with him. "Knox?" he whispered. The waist position was torn open, shredded like tissue. Daylight streamed through ragged holes where skin and structure used to be. The 50s on the starboard side were bent inward, like something had hit them from the outside with a fist the size of a truck. Wind tore through the opening in shrieking gusts, carrying bits of shredded fabric and smoke with it. There was no body, no helmet, no boots, no blood trail to follow. Just one thing. A single dog tag, half melted, twisted in a ribbon of heated aluminum clinging to the edge of the breach. "Turner J." Mick's breath caught. Jesse had been his anchor, the voice in his headset when the sky became too loud. And now, nothing. He tried to speak, but only air came out. The kind of silence that hurt. Gripping handrails slick with frost, he pulled himself farther forward into the radio compartment. The oxygen system was down, hoses torn and dangling. He grabbed a portable tank with shaking hands. It hissed to life, but barely. He sucked in what little he could, eyes watering from cold and smoke. In the cockpit, the scene was worse. Lieutenant Avery slumped forward, his forehead embedded into the bent yoke. Jameson, the co-pilot, had been thrown sideways, his temple a deep red smear across the side panel. The intercom wires sparked occasionally, their useless crackle a cruel imitation of life. The plane was still flying. 4 engines hummed, loyal in death as they had been in life. The fortress didn't want to die. But it was dying. Slowly, stubbornly. Like a man refusing to kneel. Mick climbed back into the tail. Not for safety. There was none left. But because that was his post. And if he was going down, he'd be looking his killers in the eye. The sky outside was quiet. Too quiet. Then came the wolves. 2 Messerschmitt Bf 109s dropped from the sun like falling daggers, wings gleaming. One peeled left, climbing, circling. The other came straight for them, guns already sparking. Mick squeezed the triggers. The tail guns rattled like angry gods. His tracers lit the sky, carving desperate orange lines toward the enemy. The Me-109 opened fire. Explosions rocked the fuselage. A gash tore open the side, and metal sliced into Mick's thigh. He screamed, not just in pain, but in defiance. He didn't stop firing. The barrels of his Brownings glowed red, blistering with heat. His vision blurred, but he kept tracking, kept firing. And then, contact. The German fighter shuddered midair. Black smoke belched from its cowling. It spiraled away, spinning out of control until it vanished below the cloud line. The second Me-109 backed off. Maybe fuel, maybe fear. Silence returned. No voices, no formation, no command. Just Mick, bleeding in the tail of a dead bomber, adrift above a foreign land. Only the wind spoke now, and it whispered that this was far from over. The tail began to twist. Somewhere between the wings and the rear fuselage, Fool's Errand cracked like dry wood. Mick knew the plane had maybe 30 seconds. His parachute was gone, burnt, or stolen by fire. He screamed at the sky. Not in fear, in fury. The plane lurched, the tail tore free, and Mick fell. It was not a graceful descent. No floating serenity. It was a metal coffin spinning nose over tail at 300 miles per hour. Inside, he was tossed like broken glass in a bottle. His leg shattered further. His helmet cracked. Blood streamed from his mouth. Through the windows, sky, trees, sky again. He thought of Jesse, of Carson, of his sister back in Ohio. And as the blur turned to green, trees rising like spears, He clenched the steel rails of the tail section and whispered, "If you take me, do it fast." But the trees caught him. A grove of pines softened the impact. The tail crumpled like a soda can. He was unconscious before he stopped moving. And yet, his heart still beat. They found him 3 hours later. French resistance fighters, hiding from the Gestapo, spotted smoke and heard the slow, moaning cough of someone not yet dead. When they peeled open the wreckage, they found Mick crushed beneath the gunner's seat, unconscious, bleeding, legs twisted, but alive. He was smuggled to a village outside Le Mans, where an old woman named Eliane saved his life with boiled herbs and shaking hands. He woke screaming every night for weeks. In 1946, back in Ohio, Mick never flew again. His left leg never healed right. He limped, spoke little, smiled less. But he visited Jesse's parents every year on November 18th, left flowers, and never said why. In 1972, a boy in a museum asked him how he survived the fall. Mick looked at the tail section, what was left of Fool's Errand, suspended from the ceiling like a ghost. "I didn't," he said. "Part of me never got out of that sky." And he meant it. But even broken men can stand when memory asks them to. And Mick Harland, last man from Fool's Errand, stood tall, even when he didn't walk straight. Because the trees had caught him. Because someone had to remember. And he did. To be animated in a solemn, documentary style with close attention to realism, silence, flak bursts, and shattered friendship. Final credits roll over archival footage of WW2 tail gunners, with Mick's voice reading the letter he never sent.